Welcome to the United We Scan podcast, the podcast by rural carriers for rural carriers. The views expressed in this podcast are of the presenters and the presenters only and do not represent the views, opinions, or strategies of the United States Postal Service or the National Rural Letter Carriers Association. We ask that you please consult your assigned union representative for guidance in your local area. Please like this podcast, share with your fellow rural carriers, and subscribe to be notified each time a new episode is uploaded. Please leave a comment or question for us below. Thank you. Now, here are the hosts of the United We Scan podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. What are we at? Episode 85. We've got some news, some updates, and more of who knows what. So, we'll start it off. And how was your week, Toasty?
My week was pretty good. Monday was a solid day, solid regular Monday. Tuesday we had Advo, so it went off not too bad. And then Wednesday I finally got my edit book back after RRO had been implemented, or the rural route optimization. And so I turned around quickly, try to re-edit it for my line of travel because it ungrouped my CBUs because of the ones that were vacant. It didn't recognize as in the program, I guess. It only takes the ones that are occupied. So I had to rearrange my entire line of travel again in the correct order and submit that back in on Wednesday. So hopefully I get it back here pretty soon so I can change my stickers because our new DPS is coming in the quote-unquote correct way now. Other than that, I had Thursday and Friday off. Kids started school on Wednesday, and my wife actually left Wednesday to ZinCon, which is the Zumba instructor conference in Florida, and she's going to be flying back tonight. Her flight got delayed, so easily make the podcast and then go pick her up from the airport. How about you, James? How's your week?
It was about normal overall for everything. I am setting up my route right now for the subs, and I had sent my edit book in and asked for new labels because I had changed all the names on my labels, added the ones that were missing, stuff like that. And AMS came back and said, you just got new labels because you changed an address. Why do you need new labels again? And so that kind of got screwed up. So new labels will have to come next month, and whoever hopefully can get that fixed for them. And then I'm going through and making sure all my mailboxes are marked. I'm actually putting an arrow inside at my corner boxes so carriers know where they need to go when they get there. You know, like a right turn here or do a U-turn, stuff like that. Just simple arrows using that and the address numbers inside the box. So that way they have that open, they can verify the address. But other than that, had the air show at Pontiac today. So I spent all day out there with the air show and had right up on the flight line watching the stunt planes and planes coming in and going from Pontiac. And it was very busy today. Lots of planes today. They did have a Ford Tri-Motor there. A 1928 Ford Tri-Motor was actually giving rides for people. So that was pretty awesome to see. It was right in front of us, so it kept coming in and leaving right in front of us. But then came back home here to do the podcast. So all in all, a pretty good week. The one thing I do have to note, everybody, check your vacants and actives on the mapping. The system is marking them vacant automatically when you get a PARS label for the address. Whether it's an individual or a family, it is marking it vacant on the computer, which is against the contract because we don't mark them vacant for 90 days. So keep track of that. I contacted my ADR contacted the DR is contacting the NRO, and hopefully the NRO will contact the Director of Steward Operations. The Director of Steward Operations will contact the Director of Labor Relations, and they'll file a Step 4 on this because marking them vacant will affect your evaluation. So keep an eye on that. But anyway, how was your week, Bill?
Oh my God. after 2 months off, I'm back to work. I'm up at the SDC in Wayne, Pennsylvania. And my first day did 0.12 miles of walking. A route at 5.12 miles walking. That's just in the building, folks. That wasn't, on the route. That was in the building, to the parking lot, to my truck twice, back to the Dutch area. Thankfully, Tuesday, I remembered where everything was, and I cut it down to 3.5 miles. So now I'm only doing 3.5 miles a day in my post office. That is just incredible. And here it is, folks. The SDNCs don't work. As of Saturday, all routes for my office, the Westchester office, were adjusted to account for the new footage and the extra mileage driving. Every route is now a K route. Do not have a K route underneath 43. 5 J routes jumped up. 1 K route jumped from a 40. That's how bad the miscalculation is on DeJoy's part in regards to saving money. The Phoenixville office, which is a local post office that's permanently assigned to the state, they're 2.5 to 3 hours extra on each route. So I'm trying to wrap my head around the numbers and say, you're saving money how? Because you're still in post offices. The windows are there, the box actions are there. And saving money. And on top, this district manager has, if people have pickup mail for customers that they will pick up themselves, it has to be sent to the local post office. IVM or CA, take the hold mail and any parcels and any countables back up to the original post office so that the customers can get them there instead of traveling down the Wayne, because we don't have a retail window per se in the SDNC. So I fail to see how we're saving any money whatsoever, Mr. DeJoy, or should I say Lewis. I'll tell you what, after being off for 2 months, the calves and the thighs, guess what? They were sore at the end of the week. I could feel all 214 jumps out of an airplane at the end of the week because I was sore. But we actually had a situation on Wednesday when our postmaster stood up and gave a service talk to the city carriers and explained to them that the local people inside this SDNC don't like us, don't want us there, think we're too loud, we make too much noise. Everything under the sun. And she was basically crying by the end of her speech how much they hate having Westchester in their facility. And I'm sitting there going, aren't we all mail carriers? I mean, folks, what the hell's going on here? But apparently they're territorial and they don't like us, and we don't care. Mail volume was moderate to heavy. Monday, my first day back, getting oriented and everything, I finished at 9:11 p.m. Tuesday, I got back by 7, and the next 3 days I was back before 6. But adding the extra couple hours onto my route for the week, it's let me tell you, it's a wear and tear in your body that you don't expect, especially traveling down a highway in an LLV and trying to do 60 miles an hour so you don't get run over. And let's say, oh yes, does everybody know that Ron Speakman from Fed Up has put up the podcast with his interview with me? Oh my God, what a gracious host. What a great individual. I mean, his summary is just magical. It was so good that I'm going to vote for myself this year. Honestly, I'm going to. It's the first time I'm going to vote for myself, but I believe in myself now because he made me believe in me. And I want to thank him from the bottom of my heart for all his work, his effort, his guidance and counseling. I can see us getting a national position for him. How about you there, Kristen? How was your week?
Well, I ended up working all week with the exception of Monday. For those, I'll do the baby update real quick. Sunday, contractions died off after she calmed down. I think she just kind of overdid it at work. So Monday we go into the doctor. And doctor was so thrilled that he's jumped up above that 10% cutoff up to the 12th percent. And we are going in on Monday, August 19th to have this baby boy. So yeah, that's the baby update. We have another full week. And then I'll get to be there and get her home just in time to leave for Reno. So, yes, if you're around me at Reno during break time, lunchtime, feel free to check in because I will definitely be video calling her to see that grandbaby. So there's the baby update. I know everybody that has reached out to me with questions this week, that was usually like the first question was, how's your daughter doing? And then they went on to what they wanted to ask me. So there's the update for everybody right now. We have one more week. So there we go. August 19th, which actually it's kind of cool if you think about it, as long as he's born by 11:59 p.m. on the 19th. This is a little scenario I thought was kind of cool. And it kind of runs between myself and my firstborn son, and my birthday, as most know, is March 16th. My son's birthday is August 16th, which is this coming up Friday, so shout out to my son over in Okinawa. And Ruby's birthday is October 19th, and little man may be making his appearance on August 19th. That's kind of cool. But other than that, I went back to work Tuesday. I guess Amazon made a late appearance. Monday was super heavy, and so they held over 3 USPS APCs apart packages so they could get all of Amazon out. So Tuesday, I ended up with like 161 scans on a Tuesday. For package-wise, it was the Mondayest Tuesday outside of a day after a holiday. Mail was light. Rest of the week was pretty average. Amazon, again, on Thursday, decided they didn't want to show up till almost 9:30 as everybody was leaving. Luckily, it was light. I come in Friday, or I come back Thursday afternoon. I only had like a dozen packages. I'm like, that's not even worth a second trip. So I just took it out on Friday. And then I graciously volunteered to work my K-Day yesterday. So one of my coworkers who hasn't seen a K-Day in a couple months could have his weekend. And that's what I did. The supervisor didn't want to hear about it at all when I approached her Wednesday on it. And her day off is normally Thursday, so when she was back Friday and the postmaster was there as well, I went to the postmaster, and she was more than happy to make that work out, even though the supervisor wasn't happy about it. But yes. So I will, and then I'm working Monday through Saturday. I got a 6-day week this week, so, and then I'll be off for 2.5 weeks between baby arriving and National Convention. 6 more days, and to step away from the route for a couple of weeks. And I will say, to add on to what Bill said, Ron is definitely gracious, and it's awesome that he's giving us the airtime. I did my interview with him this morning. We're looking forward to having that released on Saturday the 17th. So look forward to that. Again, thank you, Ron, for doing that. That was a good time. And outside of that, that was pretty much my week. Nothing too exciting, and no baby yet. Got another week. So. Oh yeah, and a quick correction. This is episode 86, not 85. Other than that, James, what else you got on the agenda for tonight?
All right. So the first thing we have, I wanted to discuss that the NALC, our brothers and sisters in the CityCraft, had their convention this past week. Now, a lot of chatter has been going on with the issues with their president and the fact that he got away with lying to his own craft and other things. But this was a win for the craft in one very important way. The craft was told by their president that the appeals to the decisions against the president's charges could not be heard at their national convention. And 2/3 of their national convention stood up and said, no, the people of the craft are the supreme body to make these decisions. Whatever happened after that doesn't matter because the people were speaking. Now, whether you agree or disagree with how the people spoke on it, it doesn't matter because the people made the choice, which is what was supposed to happen. So I wanted to put it out there that there was a major victory for the people. Now they look forward to their 2026 National Convention, as well as their elections, which are the entire craft versus just a delegation like we have. So if the craft themselves want to speak, they can with their vote when it comes to their 2026 convention. So I just wanted to put it out there that it is possible for the people to stand up against the regime that thinks they are untouchable and tell them that no, the body still speaks for the craft. What do you guys think?
Oh, I agree. I was following along real good. I couldn't follow along as much as some people did, but I was definitely listening to the updates and whatnot and the daily ADA arbitrations that came on. And, you know, I'm proud of our city carrier brothers and sisters for what they were able to accomplish this week. Definitely may have not been the best outcome, but let me tell you, as standing up and uniting and everything that they were able to accomplish, I definitely applaud them 100%.
Also, shout out to Corey from ADA Arbitration. If y'all looked in that Discord while everything was going on, that thing was packed. You just try to scroll through how many people were listening in just to what was going on, and you were scrolling for a good minute. Just trying to get through it all. Of course, everyone was on mute and, you know, they were just listening in. But that's engaging the craft. That's bringing the members in, the ones that couldn't make it, the ones that couldn't get the time off, the ones that want to be engaged, want to be informed, you know, being able to at least hear what's going on, see what's being proposed through that sort of communication, rather than having to wait until the recap or the next magazine. There was that open communication brought on by Corey and from ADA Arbitration. So that way people could get that information now instead of waiting for it. You know, that's a beautiful thing to have. I mean, sure, the votes were disappointing. You know, they wanted, you know, a bit of a change, but, you know, they sent a very loud and clear message, 100%.
And I just want to put it out there for the folks that listen to us. And that listened to ADA Arbitration and was following along and listening in to their proceedings and whatnot. I'm just going to put it out there that we cannot do that. We will not be doing that. And, you know, as much as it would be awesome if we could, that is something that we will definitely not be crossing that line at our convention. As we all know, if anybody is caught from our convention doing that, then they are removed from the convention floor, and we will not be doing that. So,
and I will also throw this out there with that. I'll throw this out there with that, Kristen. Mm-hmm. And with that, because that is a violation of our standing policies, it is a possibility that they could actually take action and make the member become a member not in good standing, meaning you won't be able to vote, you won't be able to participate in voting on things and things like that. So you'll be basically like a non-dues paying member, even though you're still paying dues.
Correct. So, because that isn't...
So otherwise...
Go ahead, Bill.
So otherwise, they're going to treat you like Dominic Crooks, right? And James, you're right. It was a win for the body of the NALC because of the fact they stood up and said, no, we have a voice here. We are the voice, and we are going to be heard. Even though they didn't get to basically resolve the issues in the manner that we would have liked to see them, because that would have been a great impetus for our craft. It still proved that the body has more power than the board in regards to saying how the proceedings go along. And that was a great win for the city carriers. Congratulations to them.
I agree completely. The next news update that I have is the Postal Pulse survey coming out. So, this is the statement from the NRLCA. According to USPS correspondence received by the NRLCA, the Postal Service will administer the Postal Pulse survey August 6th through September 13th, 2024. The NRLCA remains committed to the vision of a better, healthier workplace where supervisors and employees have a constructive dialogue with each other, where differences are recognized and diversity is valued, where we are able to work together and unlock the great potential of our workforce. The NRLCA reaffirms its commitment to workplaces where every employee at every level of the Postal Service is treated at all times with dignity, respect, and fairness. Now, those were two different statements. One was MOU 14, the other was the Joint Statement on Violence Behavior in the Workplace, paraphrased. But let me just read what the APWU has said about the Postal Pulse survey before we get discussing it. The APWU is urging union members to refrain from participating in the USPS's management's Postal Pulse survey. Negotiations for a new union contract began on June 25th, and any information you give them can be used in retaliation to hurt us during negotiations and arbitration. Regardless of pressure from supervisors or managers, letter correspondence, excessive emails, or other tactics, employees are not required to participate in this survey. APWU urges you to not participate in the Postal Pulse. Please be aware of these new changes to the survey. A new company is conducting the survey, Perceptix, instead of Gallup. There is now a 5-point scale. Questions have been added and others refreshed. There will be no more paper surveys sent to employees' homes. Instead, the paper surveys are being sent to work locations as well as electronically. Stay united and don't be fooled by management's tricks created to divide us. We want to remind members to wear APWU gear with pride every Thursday until our current contract expires, to send a powerful message to management that we are union proud. Say it loud. The APWU negotiations team is working diligently to secure a good union contract for postal workers. Stand strong. Don't let management take your pulse. Kind of a black and white difference there between the two statements of unions on the Postal Pulse survey. Now, I will put this out there. I've been talking with a manager who was pushing the Postal Pulse survey in a rural carrier associate group. And this manager tried to say that it's been 30 years since management used the Postal Pulse survey against carriers, but yet just last year, the Gallup poll, which is who they just replaced, had our EIN numbers on there. So don't be mistaken by this. There's going to be something on that Postal Pulse survey that tracks it back to you. They want to know, because they've abused carriers over it too. Now I open it up to you guys. What do you guys think? Which is better, our unions or the APWU's response to the Postal Pulse?
I'm not a fan of the Postal Pulse, so I'll just tell you that.
I like the APWU's response to it.
Oh, yes. Well, that, and I have also heard over the years that management gets a kickback for every one of those that gets returned out of their offices. Whether or not that's true or not, I don't know, but I've heard that in the past.
Yeah, and that is true. Somebody just said this in the chat. And because if you have a postal email, they send it to your email with a link. What's to say that link doesn't have something to track it back to you? Or doing it on Blue and doing the Postal Pulse survey on there. Guess what? You've logged into Blue. That's tracking you.
Apparently you can do it on Light Blue, and that, of course, is tracking you as well.
Mm-hmm. So, it is carrier discretion whether you wish to do the Postal Pulse survey or not. But I'm not going to do it on the basis that, number one, you can't actually tell them what's going on. You have to use the 1 through 5 system. That's it. There's no comment section anymore. Anyway.
Yeah, I've never been a
Boy,
huge
is
fan of it.
is nobody going to ask why Bill's so quiet?
Why is Bill so quiet?
I fill out the postal survey all the time, and I put down my sincere comments that this is a waste of time, is a waste of money. You don't listen to us, and management abuses us. You haven't done anything in 10 to 15 years, and I put my name on it because I'm Bill May, and I'm not afraid of anybody. And yes, the APW is doing just the right thing by their membership in regards to this, because of the fact that just like the ballots, the mail-in ballots, I haven't seen any, returned yet this year, but in the past, you could track who was Republican and Democrat by the coding on the back. Same thing with these damn things. I'll guarantee you can send it in there with no address or anything on there, and that barcode is exactly matched up with your address, your EIN, and everything else. So, no, don't fill it out. Don't give them the satisfaction. If anything, throw it in the trash. Don't even send it back. I will do as I have in the past and put my comments on there and send it back, because, like I said, I don't fear anybody. And, somebody be sitting there getting a good laugh going, oh, this guy's a real asshole, or he's really pissed off, or whatever. You know what? He might be an angry Bill. But the thing of it is that it's a waste of time. You do not take any of our input part. You don't take our input in regards to our line of travel. You don't take any of our input in regards to benchmarking for unscanned parcels. Oh, you can't have more than 6. Why? Why can you not have more than 6? They benchmark that number. Do what you want. Told you what I do. But I believe the APW has sent a strong message to their membership, and I'm 100% behind them.
Agree completely with.
Why is there always a pregnant pause after I'm done talking, huh?
Because I'm making sure we're ready to move on to the next topic. So now we have a national convention update to talk about. And that update is we now have another position that has opposition. And that opposition is to the Director of Labor Relations position. Now you have Bridget Boziak, who is the incumbent, and you have John Adams running against Bridget. Now, I'm going to speak for myself here as a Michigander. I support John Adams because everybody I've talked to that has dealt with this gentleman has never said a bad thing about him. Now, if somebody has something bad to say about him, send me a message, let me know what's going on. But I've heard he's a fighter. He has gone to bat for people. He has defended people when he was in office as well as a steward. So, he really cares. And in fact, he's one of the guys that I send people to get information. If I don't know who their NRO is, he's the first person I send them to because he knows his stuff. And that's who I'm pulling for in this election. How about you guys?
Well, I can speak for the fact that he's my NRO. And I've run into him at several of our state functions, and I basically have encouraged him to look at a higher position, which thankfully he's now running for. This gentleman got involved with our office, particularly because of our fire and us being relocated to the SDNC 12 miles away from our home office. Now, mind you that I made a phone call on the Friday morning after the fire to my DR. My DR got back to me 8 days later. John Adams was contacted on a Saturday, responded, and then made a return call on Sunday to the carrier who called him. she still had to wait until Tuesday to get a call from our full-time ADR. That's the type of individual. He is very proactive, and he does not wait, and he is not satisfied with the response time that we're getting from the people who are full-time representatives of the union. And I believe in him 100%. He's got the personality, the charm. He has, the presence, to be a good national leader. And I support him 100%.
Absolutely. When I had the chance to meet him in Orlando, and when we talked to him a little bit in Grand Rapids last year, I have absolutely nothing but positive to say about him. And any time that I have talked to him, I have thoroughly enjoyed having his company. He is definitely for the craft. And yes, I do support John Adams 100%.
I unfortunately have never been able to meet John Adams yet. Looking forward to seeing him at National Convention. But I will say that being at Mid-States with y'all and hearing the responses from questions from the floor to the current Director of Labor Relations, Bridget Boziak, I was a little frustrated when people were asking, can we get something in writing on unscanned parcel, please? And she said, well, a parcel is a parcel. Okay, well, we want something in writing to take back to our managers so that way you can say, please leave us alone. Here is the wording. Let me do my job. I know how to do it. So if from what y'all are saying, then he's got my vote.
Now, just a little bit of a disclaimer here on this. John Adams did not ask for us to do this. He never contacted us to do anything like this, but this is the type of person that we believe he is. So it's important to know that he is running to all the delegates that are going to National Convention. So just wanted to make everybody aware of the fact that he is running now. We have gotten confirmation. We have seen his letter that he has sent to state officers and NSS people, and you can actually view that on our Discord channel. We'll have somebody put it in the topics section for people to see if it's not there already. So that way you can actually see that. We'll also put any candidates' letters in there that we have found out and gotten copies of, so that way you guys can view them as well. Anybody else got anything to say on that?
I think it's been covered pretty good there.
Not that we're supporting anybody, James, but we're going to give them equal time in regards to posting their letters.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So that people can make up their own minds. We want to be fair and even keel about this.
Like we say,
everybody has a voice.
This is our views, and our views alone does not represent the views, opinions, or strategies of the United States Postal Service or the National Rural Letter Carriers Association. Everybody should do their own research to ensure the accuracy of what is being said on this podcast.
And I take offense to that, James, about their strategies, because you're assuming they have strategies, and that's very presumptuous of you.
Well, they do have a strategy. They do have a strategy. It's to take as much money from us as they can.
Well, we can infer their strategies from what they say in their letters and their statements and what they say on the stage. Even if the stage stuff is not recorded, there is somebody still paying attention to what they're saying. So we can take it from that to know what their strategies are.
Actions speak louder than words.
Yes. Like they say, management will climb a tree, tell a lie, and stand on the ground to tell the truth. And when you act like management, that statement applies to you too. All right. The next thing I have is it's mini mail survey time again. Now, we did an episode on the mini mail survey last year. I believe it was last year. And we talked about all the things that are needed for the mini mail survey. Nothing has changed from the items that need to be recorded for the mini mail survey. It begins on the 23rd, and it will include the holiday. unfortunately. So you're getting technically 11 days of it, but you get the day after a holiday volume. So there's that portion as well. So if they do decide that on Saturday they'll run DPS, and then on Sunday Sunday they'll run DPS, and then on Monday they run DPS at the plant, and you get 2 trays of DPS, guess what? The smaller tray is raw mail for the mini mail survey. So don't forget that. Routes must be mapped and done by September 6th. They will lock them out on September 6th. So don't forget that they will be doing that. And then Friday, September 13th, they will lock out the mini mail surveys after September 13th. So everything has to be input on September 13th or it won't go in. And then September 28th should be the 4241 A and M's printed and distributed. And the effective date will be October 5th. So we wanted to put that out there. Those are the dates that we have from the union on the mini mail survey and when it should be done. Don't let managers try to say, oh, it's got to be done earlier, it's got to be done later. If you can do it earlier, go for it. But those are the days. And
James?
Yes.
It starts Friday the 23rd and goes through Friday the 6th. It's not starting on Saturday, so it is 12 days. It is 12 work days.
12 days. Yes, okay, 12 work days. I'm still thinking I have Saturdays off, so I don't.
Well, not only that, but the union did post for about a week before they did the quote unquote official announcement as August 24th. So
yes, that's true. So they confused me.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was confused because of the holiday, and that always confuses everybody, the holidays. But yes, so make sure management is doing it by these timelines and make sure it's getting done.
And I will only be on my route the last 3 days of that mini mail survey. I'm going to leave instructions that I want my numbers texted to me every single day while I'm either en route or at National Convention.
Yep. And I know that National Convention was planned out years in advance. Mm-hmm. But don't you think somebody that was in the planning of the National Convention and also working with National on the rec system would have known to adjust it to fit the days that they have the mini mail survey, so the regular carriers who go to National Convention would be able to take the time off without worrying whether subs are actually getting things done right on their route for the mini mail survey?
As much as
I'm gonna go ahead, Justin. Go ahead.
You know, the one good thing about when my sub started was shortly before the spring mini mail survey. So he is familiar with what to do. I will be leaving instructions if I don't talk to him prior. Since he will be off for a few days, I will be leaving. I now have a notebook at my case for important information. And I will be leaving it in there with a note saying, please read. That way he knows he has to do what he did while he was covering my route after he first started during the mini mail survey. And I do want communication on what my numbers are each and every day while I'm gone.
This is a situation where, again, communication, transparency. Who on the national board agreed to this? And not that the post office put that out there. I mean, we have started, mail counts, aka mini mail surveys, on a Tuesday and worked it for the 12 days. But you've had this convention planned for years. Who didn't look at this and say, oh, there's a conflict? There's going to be 1,200 people at this convention that aren't going to be able to verify their numbers regardless of how well you put your notes there, Kristen, something's going to slip by.
Yeah.
You know it's going to happen, okay?
Oh, I do.
But the fact of the matter is, you didn't have the sway to tell the post office to bump it back an extra week, or you didn't have the balls to. This is the problem with this leadership, is that they didn't come in there and tell the post office, no, we need to push this back a week, maybe even 2 weeks, but we're not having it during our convention. Because you can absolutely guarantee how many phone calls are going to be made during the mini mail survey to people while they're sitting there in their seats and answering texts back and forth about this, that, and the other thing. I guarantee you, them phones will be lighting up during the convention.
Mm-hmm.
That means they won't be paying attention to what's going on in the convention if they're constantly answering questions from carriers.
Well, what can I say? A lot of them don't anyway.
I got a whole stack of about 10 clicker counters for the RCAs and for other carriers. So they want to borrow them. They know they're out of my case. So that way they can count their upside downs. And then at the end of the day, they can count their markup mail, the forwards, and everything else that was pulled out of the DPS. But yeah, it's not going to be fun for that first week, especially with us having a couple more new RCAs that just got hired on. So we'll see how it goes.
If I do the same thing, I have a half sheet that I do that I print out that has all the tracking on it. And they can actually write everything on it and calculate it and all that stuff, so they don't have to worry about it.
I have 2 cases of Crown Royal, so that at the end of the day, everybody can eat in the parking lot and drown their woes. Oh, did I say that out loud? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
No,
okay.
those are for celebration on Friday.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh, don't worry. We're going to where? Costco out there in Reno?
And go somewhere.
Just make sure they have liquor there so that we can celebrate.
Yep. So,
and those that are waiting on meet and greet information, things have calmed down. I will have that stuff out by next week's episode on where and when in Reno we will have the meet and greet, and then I'll post it in the group and on the page and whatnot.
And for the 3 of you, everything that we're going to get at Costco is on Bill May. I'm not kidding.
We know.
I just want you to know. I mean, don't worry about putting money aside for anything else. Take care of, the essentials that you have to. I'll take care of the goodies.
okay.
I got to get my collapsible wagon.
Yep.
I do have so far one person walking with me. If anybody else is interested in walking with any of us, please reach out. Let us know. We can always work details out too once we get there for those that may be interested. Yeah. All right, James, what else did you have now that we've sidetracked?
All right. So earlier I talked about the computer system turning boxes vacant automatically. And I wanted to go in a little bit more detail about that for people. So the biggest issue we have in the Rex program with management is the fact that they are doing our mapping without us. And this has actually been asked to be stressed by several DRs and ADRs that have contacted me. Carriers, you need to be doing your mapping, especially right now, because the mini mail survey coming up, and if it has marked those boxes vacant, then you're going to lose money. Just like on the first mini mail survey, and we had 66% of carriers drop. Then they turned around and did the route optimization and cut carriers with that. Now they're going to do it with the mapping by cutting boxes out of your route. On my route alone, 1 box equals 3 minutes of evaluation. 1 box equals 3 minutes for me. So if I lose so many boxes, I could go down an hour. And if I'm not doing my mapping and this computer system's doing this, I could lose that hour without even knowing it. You have to go through your mapping. Because
go ahead.
Because if you don't, you are taking money out of your wallet, as Bill would say. And I have a postmaster that has never mapped with the carriers. And the carriers don't want to map with this postmaster because of how toxic she is.
That's when the union needs to step in and bring in an outside mapping facilitator.
Yes.
Yep.
I agree. But I got to put it out there. Do your mapping. Because there are some managers that are now turning around and getting forms created for you to sign that you don't want to do your mapping for carriers that say, oh, just go through it and clear it. It's your money. Now go ahead, Kristen.
Also on that, with the boxes being converted to vacant when a PARS label is made, I'm going to say not only double check with your mapping, but if you double check your edit sheets in your edit book. If you order new edit sheets at any time, skim through those and check as well. We had an instance on one of our routes, did a route inspection, and there was 3 active boxes that was marked vacant on the paperwork that the postmaster had, and they were never vacated. They had forwards come out of them, individual forwards, not family forwards, and had never been vacant. In fact, one of them always got a ton of mail. I used to sub on that route. And so double check when you're doing your edit books for the month. Always, and especially if you get new edit sheets, skim through that thing too, just to double check and verify prior to submitting it in. And then double check when you're doing your DPM and LTM on that electronic edit book there on the side. Double check that as well. And yes, mapping is big. Big, big, big. And if management's not mapping with you, or you don't want to map with that manager because of a toxic environment, or they're going behind your back, contact your DR immediately. And if it's an issue, especially with a toxic environment or them just not doing anything with anybody, they can pull an outside facilitator to come in and do the mapping with you. I know of facilitators that have gone around to other offices to help get these offices where they should be with mapping. So definitely contact your DR ASAP on that. If you're not getting responses, go up to your NRO.
And to tack on to this, I'm not sure if James was going to go into it later, but with the new rural route optimization, for me, this is what happened to me. It may not be the same for everyone. My route is about half CBU, half curbside. When I did the RRO, it had me do what I used to do, which is my rural part first, and then all of my subdivisions, basically. So what I used to do, we'll say I went on Main Street, I did 300 block, 800 block, and then I turned into one of the new subdivisions. Well, the first couple of boxes in that subdivision, in that CBU, are vacant because they're still being built out. The houses that are moved in are about 24 deep in that CBU stop. Well, the new RRO has me do the 300 block of Main Street, 800, and then turn left into a different subdivision. But on my edit book, it shows the 300 block, 800 block Main Street, the first vacant boxes in the CT subdivision instead of the first open boxes at the, we'll say, Swanson neighborhood across the street that it has to be turned into. So this has completely messed up my mapping because now I can't group my CBUs correctly. And when you can't group your CBUs correctly, you can't get the correct CBU credit. Because not only do you get credit for the open boxes in the CBU, you get credit for the key turn for the collection compartments, and you get CBU credit for actually opening up and servicing a CBU. So opening the doors, unlatching it, all of that is another credit. So you have to make sure that if you went through this program, this optimization program, that it didn't put those boxes somewhere else. Because in another part of the subdivision, it put, we'll call it Adam Street, and it put that before my very last street at the end of my route, which is nowhere close to where it should have been. So, which is why I had to turn in a line of travel on Wednesday to put everything back in its correct places, so that way I can group my CBUs correctly so I can get the correct credit. And then, of course, trying to do my dismount list, that was another mess because it completely deleted everything. So it deleted how many parcel lockers I had, it deleted the footage, and it was just a mess. So I had to turn around. I couldn't even do my DPM and LTM because I had to fix that first, so that once it gets corrected, then I can go back in, regroup everything, and then re-put in all the dismount measurements.
You can resequence in the DPM if need be. You just have to change the sequencing number. It can be a pain in the butt when you're doing a lot of them, but just so you know, on the electronic edit book side of the DPM, you can resequence it using the sequence numbers.
It was about 100 boxes that were...
Yeah, that one would just be easier to be uploaded by AMS. And yeah, definitely with the mapping, because I know I am on leave all of next week, not this coming week, but starting the 19th. And obviously I'm leaving Thursday for Reno, and I'm on leave as well for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday with the new baby coming. But I am actually going to go in on my own time while I'm on leave to make sure my mapping is done, because I don't trust anybody else to do my mapping for my route. I would rather go in after the carriers have all left, so, you know, it's nice and quiet. I can go in, get logged in. Since I was trained as a mapping facilitator, my postmaster just lets me do it by myself. She comes in, enters in password when it's needed to go to the next. Other than that, I am completely on doing my mapping, so I will be going in on my own time to make sure that my mapping is done prior to leaving for Reno.
Bill's been awfully quiet.
Well, technically I'm on leave, so I'm not worried about the off-the-clock thing. I just want my mapping done before I go. And I know AMS doesn't update until after the 20th. I don't like them being done sooner than that, even though our POOM tries to push them to start sooner than that. I refuse to do it sooner than the 20th because then it will re-update anyways, and then you have to go back in and redo it.
Well, Angry Bill would just like to go around and who's working off the clock because of the fact that, you know, they don't pay attention. You know, they don't care. It's all in their own self-interest. It really is. And I actually have one carrier who needs to be out early so that he can get his kids at 2:30, 2:45 at daycare every day. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've been fighting that story for years, and as you know, especially a lot of single moms. So, excuse the expression, but don't cry on my shoulder about your situation. If you can't get there in time, then pay for after school daycare, whatever. But stop cheating yourself. Stop cheating the subs. Stop helping management, and technically down the road, these engineers will come back and say, "Wow, we need to change the time standards. Look at this." Well, this is why I've always say when you take 100% of anything, you take 5% at the top, 5% at the bottom, you throw them out. The other 90% will give you your average, because there are, those unicorns top and bottom that affect us the same way it did with the mini mail survey. The problem with the mini mail survey, the first one we had where 66% of the carriers dropped, taking 5% out of there was approximately $12,000+ per carrier. That's a huge 5% to drop out of it. Versus the other end that went up the 8 hours. 5% of them was almost half of those carriers. So stop it. Just stop it. Play by the same rules as everybody else is supposed to play by. Okay? And normal Bill, the conservative one, he turns around and he just files a grievance with the management. He talks to him once. The second time it happens, he files a grievance. And there's a $200 penalty. It's been paid once in my office this year. They don't want to pay $200 again to every carrier. And it's not just the rural carriers because the settlement said every carrier in Westchester. So that's inclusive of city carriers. That's close to $20,000 they have to pay out.
And even
they don't want to do that.
And even if you have no edit book changes for the month or a month or any month at that point, if you don't have any edit book changes, then still do your mapping. That gives you the chance to make sure that your pinpoints are where they need to be, that they haven't moved on you. I've had some end up in weird spots. Still take that time each month, even if you don't have an edit book change. I understand some routes don't change very often at all. I understand that. But still, take that time to run through your mapping and definitely, fine tweak those things that may need to be moved back into place. Or you may notice during an LTM that something looks wonky, like you're driving in a circle because a box pinpoint is out of whack. Still go through and make sure that is all correct on those months that you don't have any edit book changes.
Kristen, you got to remember, we've heard enough stories from carriers across the country that, they're having traffic control points disappear on them. They're having cluster box, credits disappear for parcel lockers and mail collection units. Dismounts, the dismount distances. Even if you haven't changed anything, these things are just randomly disappearing. Mm-hmm. And James says, you get a PARS label, which is a change of address. All of a sudden, you have a vacancy. Well, no, it's not vacant. I just received this last week. It's 90 days. What the hell's wrong with the system? So don't believe just because you didn't change anything that there aren't changes being made to the system. You should check it every month, because every month that's money. And that's money out of your pocket.
Absolutely. I have a new build going in. I got the no stat notice from management. It's a new build. I didn't know they had moved in. In fact, I found out on Facebook, one of the local groups, that they just moved into their new place. And I was like, I don't even think they have a box up yet. It's a new build. I went by, no box. I clicked, no, it's vacant. The very next day, I got a hold card for them. So I'm like, okay. But yeah, you definitely, like I said, even if you don't have any edit book changes that you make yourself, definitely go through your mapping and double check and make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. Whether it's active, inactives, or pinpoints, making sure that these don't move. I've had some that ended up in a creek, a quarter of a mile from the box where the actual box is. How that happened, I have no clue, but I had to go in and change it.
And I'm going to say it's been the past 2 months that I've noticed that it was doing the marking of vacant. Last month it happened. I kind of threw it off as maybe a fluke, something wires got crossed or something, but this month it was an address that I had known. The people had moved out, had sold the house, new people had moved in, literally the next day. It was funny because the person that bought the house put in their forward to start ahead of time and literally came in the day after they moved in to the post office asking where their mail was. And that was the first piece of mail that day I had gotten for their address, was that specific day that they came into the post office. And it marked it vacant, this past mapping. So I had to turn around and tell my postmaster, I'm going to have to file on that because that's the second month in a row it's happened. And all of them are verified they were because of PARS labels. So that's why I've passed it up the chain. I'm going to see if up top's going to say anything. If not, middle of this week, I'm filing the grievance because I want it to be timely. Whether they get back to me or not on that is up to them and their response is. And I don't want to, I'll get back to you on that. We'll look into it or any of that. It's going to be file the grievance or give me a step 4 on it. One of the two.
Yeah, it's like I said, at least I know for sure, with the one route in our office, that one address had their kids had moved back out and had forwarded out. They still lived there. It was just their kids. It was individual forwards, and it was vacant. Marked vacant. And he's like, this has never been a vacant box, ever. So, yeah, they had 3 of them like that. So, yeah, definitely pay attention And like I said, double check. If you get new edit sheets, definitely take that time and double check those as well.
In God we trust, all others pay cash.
Pretty much.
All right. I had one more thing come across my desk, and then I'll be done for the day. I have in my hands a date of award of July 5th, 2023, National Association of Letter Carriers versus the United States Postal Service in arbitration. And the issue at hand was management had changed the start time from 8 o'clock to 8:30. And they filed a grievance on it, and it went to arbitration with them. Now, I will post a link to the arbitration decision and in Discord for people if they want to read it. But in summary, I find that management violated Articles 5 and 19 of the National Agreement of the NALC and M39 Section 122.11 when it, 1, unilaterally changed the start time at the JFK facility from 8 a.m. to 8:30 without considering the factors in M39, and failed to bargain over the effects of the unilateral change. This grievance is granted. Management shall immediately reinstate the original start time of 8 a.m. for the carriers at the facility. This is a big win to start times. And the grievance was on November 19th, 2022 was when it happened. So think about, it was July 5th, 2023 that this answer came out, so it was almost a year later. But this right here on the start times, and this includes our 10 a.m. start times on Amazon Sundays, I want to know if our national office agreed to the changes across the nation of 10 a.m.
Shit. Excuse me. I sneezed. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We know you have allergies. It's all right.
Bullshit, yeah.
So that's the biggest thing that I can say is start times should be following all procedures when it comes to that. I'm going to post it in the topics section for everybody to follow. And that's all I have for the day. Oh, next week, everybody get your questions in. We want to do one final carrier Q&A of the candidates. If there are any candidates out there that want to join in, feel free. Let us know. We'll put it out so they can hear us. But Kristen, you have the question form still?
Yep, I will repost those and get those up. In fact, I was just thinking that this evening while I was working on the buttons that we should do one final round. Must be we're on the same wavelength there for a moment, James. And yeah, definitely. I was thinking the same thing. We'll get one more Q&A in next week. I will get those posted up tonight. As a matter of fact, I will get on that as soon as I stop recording and whatnot. Sorry for all if I got any background noise. I've been trying to get all this stuff together, and I'd like to put a shout out to my daughter. This past week, this girl has been a button pressing machine. So all the lovely buttons that you'll see for all four of us candidates on there, as well as podcast buttons, small ones, some of the bigger ones. This girl has pressed over 600 buttons this week. So she, big shout out to Ruby on that one.
Thank you, Ruby.
Thank you, Ruby.
She
From
is still,
Godfather Bill.
Yeah, right? She is still thinking about joining the craft this fall, so we'll see what happens.
Oh.
I know. She isn't quite swayed away yet. She as much as she would love to come to Reno, I am not traveling across the country with a newborn. So, nor will she be ready to travel across the country either. But,
Well,
Yes.
that's why they make them roof carriers, you know?
I have one of those, but yeah. But no, she's done a lot of work for all of us this past week, and that I will have button keychains for the podcast. I will have both the 1.5 inch and the 2 1/4 inch buttons for the podcast. I do have some limited magnets and bottle openers / magnets, very limited, like 14 each. I think I might save those out for the meet and greet, or select individuals. We'll see how that goes. I thought about ordering more, but it just was not financially feasible to do that for the amount they want for the stuff for how many I get. So, but I do have limited amounts of those, but we'll have the button keychains and the buttons, and of course the campaign buttons for all 4 candidates. Yeah, it should be, should be fun. What do you guys think? You looking forward to Reno as much as I am?
Oh, God, yes.
And
Oh,
can't wait to meet everyone.
I'm so hyped up that, we could actually change this craft and bring everybody back together in the fold, really.
Exactly.
It's like being a steward. You got to represent people that you don't particularly like, or people that don't particularly like you. Doesn't matter. You do the same job, and that's the problem with our national board. They forgot they're in a position of service. It's not a matter of leadership because of the fact that you're in an elected position. You're our leader. You're a spokesperson. That's right. You're supposed to speak on our behalf, and they don't. I mean, we had the first mini mail survey. At what point did anybody on the national board lose money? Oh, it doesn't matter. They're not in the craft. They're not paid by it. And I saw somebody who said, something about the board pays the NSS. We pay the NSS. We pay the board. We pay the NSS. We pay for the consultants, the lawyers, the engineers. We pay for every damn thing that this union incurs as an expense. It comes out of our dues money. And guess what? I'm sick and tired of getting a poor return on my investment. It's not even an investment. It depreciates as soon as they get it. We need to change it. We need to change it this year, and we need to change it before we get to a contract, because Don Madsen will sell us down the river and say, well, this is the best we got. Or we couldn't persuade them, so it went to arbitration, and this is what the arbitrator awarded us. Before it gets to arbitration, you ought to be hammering these bastards because we deserve it. Table 2 needs to disappear. Table 4 needs to disappear. RCAs need a age step program so that if you're in there for 15 years, you're not making the same money as the guy hired last month. James says, PTFs, let's realign their dues allotment to half of what a regular carrier pays, because they're not getting full time hours every week. They're only guaranteed 2 to 5. Let's get this union turned around. Let's get RCAs paid time and a half for Sundays and holidays. How about that, ladies and gentlemen?
No, especially the fact that they created a position specifically for holidays and Sundays, the ARC position. So now if you're having you're having RCAs and PTFs running packages on Sundays and holidays, they should be doing it at a premium. You have a position specifically for that job.
Yep. It's time to, enough is enough, guys. It's time to stand up. It's time to fight. It's time to make sure our voices are 100% heard. When we get to convention, if you're a delegate, remember you're responsible for 100 dues-paying members. That's how our Constitution is broken down. You represent 100 other carriers. Make sure you know which 100 you're representing.
It's funny to think that right now we are at a precipice with the rural craft when it comes up to the contract that's coming up. And you've got people out there that, just like the last one, say, you need to vote for this contract because if we go to arbitration, we'll lose. Arbitrations shouldn't be a loss. You should go into arbitrations expecting to win. I understand, like Corey says, you go in, it's a 50-50 crapshoot whether or not the arbitrator is going to rule for you. But to be losing arbitrations, 78% of arbitrations, means you're not going in there properly. You're not properly prepared. You're not prepared with what the adversary on the other side of the aisle is going to bring up. You're not prepared for what's going on in society today. Our arbitration losses are way too high. How is it that every other craft has way better arbitrations than we do when we're using almost all the same language in the contracts? Most of the contracts are nearly identical in a lot of languages. So I don't understand how it is that people can go into arbitration and not be fully prepared for them in that aspect. And when we're talking about contract arbitrations, you can win a contract arbitration. Yes, you're going to lose on some points, but you're going to have to sit there and fight to win your argument, and you have to know what management's going to put against you. Because if you can sit there and say, Mr. Arbitrator, this is what they're going to tell you. This is what they're going to say. But this is the actual truth to what they're saying. Do you know how many arbitrations are won with just the fact that the person arguing their point knows what their adversary is going to say and tells the arbitrator what their adversary is going to say? All of them.
Remember, you lose 100% of the fights you don't fight, or you lose 100% of the fights you don't even go into.
All right, guys, we ready to wrap this up for the tonight?
Ready as I'll ever be.
All right, go ahead, James. Your final words for this evening.
Pay attention, guys. These next 3 weeks are very important. These next 3 weeks, not only leading up to National Convention, but also through National Convention, are going to be the most important weeks for the rural craft. Not only do we have a National Convention during the Mini Mail Survey, which is very important as well for all rural carriers, but we're at a precipice when it comes to contract negotiations. We know that the city craft is almost to 2 years without a contract, but it's time for the rural craft to stand up. Time for us to get together. Time for us to show management, the rural national officers, and the world that the rural letter carriers who stand up prove that we're all in this together. Toasty?
Go ahead and stay safe out there, guys. It's still getting pretty hot, especially in my area. And thankfully, it's gone from 100s down to the 90s. Stay hydrated. If you've got, I know we were talking pre-show about water spouts and rain and storms and hurricanes right now. Turn around, don't drown. It's not worth it for just the mail. Safety relies on you. You know that. You have your training if you've been given training. Make sure that you always look out for yourself. Make sure that you look out for your brothers and sisters of the craft, of your neighbors, of your family. Look out for each other. How about you, Kristen?
Oh, I was going to go to Bill.
What about
now.
Bill?
Okay, Bill.
Yeah.
Let's go to Bill.
Thanks a lot, Toasty. Damn.
Bill's been too quiet on here. That's the problem.
Well, I've been pensive. I mean, I've got a lot on my plate right now, but, that's okay. My feelings aren't hurt, Toasty. I'm not sensitive like the rest of them. I'm sorry. Anyway, to build off of what Toasty said in regards to looking out for each other, look out especially for the subs, the RCAs, okay? Because if they're new hires or, they're 5-6 months into the job, they can be intimidated and always explain to a carrier, if the hairs on your back of your neck are going up, if something just doesn't feel right in regards to traveling in bad weather, then don't do it. Don't put yourself at risk. Not for the mail, not for somebody's parcels, not for their medication or anything, because guess what? You know, if anything happens to you, we can't replace you. We can replace everything else in that truck but you. So, you know, pay attention to your feelings, okay? If you don't feel safe, then you're not safe. And turn around and fill out a 1767 and cover your ass for it. And it's a judgment call. Management can't make it for you. You are the only one who can make that judgment call at the time. So exercise discretion. Like James says, the next 3 weeks are going to be critical for this union and the direction it goes into and the representation of the craft. But please take that to heart. If you're a delegate and listening to us, please don't go along with the sheep. Vote your conscience. Vote for what you believe should be the direction this craft is going into in regards to representing the craft, the entire craft, all 120,000 plus carriers. Because if we continue down the path we've been going, if we go with the status quo, you're going to get the status quo raises, you're going to get the status quo protection, you're going to get the same type of information and lack of information, I should say, and the lack of transparency that we've been getting from our national board for the last 15 years. This is your opportunity to change that. This is the opportunity to take your union back, make it your own. I will guarantee you, just like we endorsed John Adams, we will be accessible almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We get some sleep in there somewhere, but the fact of the matter is, if we get called on a Saturday or Sunday, we're going to respond on a Saturday and Sunday because you're entitled to that service. And for what they're paying these individuals, thank you for checking my language there, Kristen. We deserve more. We deserve a lot more. What we're paying our dues. New week coming up. Get your edit books done. Get your DPM, your LTMs done. Sooner the better. Mini mail survey coming up. Pay attention. Train your subs, to pay attention. What to look for. What to enter. Where to enter it. Protect your paycheck, ladies and gentlemen. Educate yourselves, educate your subs, educate your fellow carriers. We are in this all together. And with that, be safe, be professional, be efficient, get home, because you are the most important delivery of the day, and that's to your loved ones. Have a good week. Kristen?
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. And, what each and one of these gentlemen have spoken to tonight as well, I have to agree with. These next 3 weeks are pretty crucial. I have one more week left at work, and like I said, I'm gonna make sure my mapping's done. Whether it happens, as much as I really don't want to do it before the 20th, if I have to do it Saturday, I will. Otherwise, I will say, hey, I will stop in and do my mapping real quick. I know what I have in difference. I keep a pretty good eye on my mapping every month, so it shouldn't take me all much more than maybe 15 minutes. But at that spot, guys, especially if you're in offices where management's doing the mapping behind your back, don't let that continue anymore. Make sure you take the time to do that mapping. It is critical for your route evaluation. The mapping is. It's a big, huge portion. It affects more than you realize. It's still August. The weather is kind of crazy. It's been kind of cooler here in northeastern Michigan. It was really great yesterday. I didn't have to turn the fan on in the LLV. I just had the other window rolled down a crack, and I enjoyed the day. But it's still hot in some areas. Stay hydrated. Even if it's cooler, stay hydrated. Do what you got to do to protect yourself. Because, as Bill says, you are the most important delivery of the day, getting home to your loved ones. And watch out for each other. If somebody's having an issue with the heat, or even if it's in the office, let them know. Let somebody know if somebody's not handling something well. Have each other's backs. That's the very least you can do for your coworkers is to have their backs in times of need. So, And that, guys, stay safe this week. We will be back next week. I will get the questionnaire posted. We will do one last trial by fire Q&A for the 4 candidates that are on here. And then, then we'll be off to Reno shortly after I have that grandbaby. Updates for that will be on Discord, not Facebook. Sorry, guys. But on that note, take care, everybody. Stay safe, and we will be back next week.
Did you hear that? We got groceries for under $100.